Welcome y'all to the Blackhoof Saloon, a Wild West Exodus podcast. Mosey on up to the bar and get yourself a bottle of Firewater or a glass of sarsaparilla and listen to some good old yarns about adventures of law dogs, outlaws, and weird creatures. So set a spell, water your ride or your rider, and get ready to tune up your posses. This is the Blackhoof Saloon.
All right, howdy, all you tail riders out there. Welcome back to another episode of Blackhoof Saloon. This is Eric here. I'm with Tom and Brian, as always. Did you like that one, Tom? Tail riders?
It's an interesting one. It still doesn't measure up to my favorite, but
yeah, it's gonna be hard to beat bush rangers.
I agree.
I don't know. Tail Rangers gives definitely a bordello vibe to me.
That's what I thought Tom would like that one. The innuendo.
Everyone thinks that I'm the one with the messed up mind here. Listen to all you people. Oh, bordellos and...
Well, you are the pimp.
That's true.
Notice I said pimp.
I appreciate that.
So we're going to break the usual a little bit in this episode, and we were talking about it, and we thought we'd do something a little special. We wanted to make the whole episode kind of themed, and I think we're going to do Warrior Nation for the theme. So a lot of our segments in this episode are going to be geared towards Warrior Nation.
Yes, they are.
Now, I have a little experience with Warrior Nation. I got a couple of the posse sets. I got a bunch of the minis, and I was trying them out. Basically, trying to figure them out for when I would have to face them. Tom, I know you used to play Warrior Nation, right? Or was that your son you said that used to play it more?
My son plays them.
Okay. So you basically played against them a lot.
Yes, and they're in the house, and I'm looking at them right now.
You shaking your fist at them?
No, they're fine. It's all about the player, not the models.
Okay.
Everything is perfectly balanced.
Yeah, and I know. I think part of I don't know where I came up, the idea of let's pick Warrior Nation. Other than I have local players that try to play them, and for the most part, people struggle with them, I think, because they're very melee-centric. And there's so many shooty guys in the game.
Right.
But the other thing I wanted to do a little out of the ordinary is we're going to jump right into the Pony Express Mailbag Bonanza. Right now, in the intro. Because we got some questions that... some of our listeners wrote in. These actually been sitting on the our Facebook page for a while, and I've been meaning to try to work them into the show, but I figured, why not now? And these were submitted by a listener, Andrew Netz. I hope I'm saying your last name right, Andrew. I've been known to butcher people's last names. But he gave us a couple questions to ask us. I hope he, we're not experts or nothing, but we can answer these the best that we can. Well, Brian's an expert.
Of what?
Well, we don't know, but he's an expert.
He's an expert. All right. So, first question from Andrew is, what is something you played incorrectly for the longest time?
Treasure Hunter.
Okay. Treasure Hunter. And that's like one of our favorite rules now, Brian.
Well, because I didn't realize they didn't stack. I don't know if it was because of a rule change or not, but...
You know what? I think we were both playing that kind of the same time. I think it was a rules clarification on that.
Right.
Because I think I made a list at that time when they did clarify that, and I had two guys that had that ability in it, and I was like, oh, I'm getting all these extra cards. And
right.
Then,
I think we both did, and we were like, oops, we're both been doing it wrong.
Yeah. We should have known better. It was too good to be true, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about playing wrong, but what I keep forgetting and screw. Well, I guess that is playing it wrong if I keep forgetting it and screwing it up. The increasing cost of fortune when you repeat the same action.
Yeah, that's.
I'm like, here's a fortune. I'm shooting again. Here's another fortune. I'm shooting again. I'm like, oh, and then my opponent was like, you can't do that. Like, oh crap, that's right, I can't.
Yeah, that's definitely a rule that's easy to lose track of as you're getting going, and I've seen people use different beads or chips or some kind of counter to keep track of. Okay, I spent 1. Okay, I got to spend 2. Okay, I got to double that one now. So they just having some kind of visual representation of it helps them remember, I guess.
Yeah, Battlehammer uses chips and stuff to designate like how many action points from your card. So
yeah,
it's almost like if they spend it to use it.
It's a good idea to keep track. I'm sitting there standing up with my hands in the air and I'm counting. Okay, I can use this point for that action, these 2 points for that. That's usually what I do, and I lose track doing that. I should start using some kind of token or something. I mean, the 3 of us still have all the old tokens from first edition, and I use the little star badges a lot to show who activated because they stand out so well out there. I'll either put them by the guy or on the card. I don't know if I have a rule. You know what? Probably being an enlightened player, and the rule changed. Got tweaked ever so often. Like every time they did an update. Probably when I bring back all my dead things for the enlightened. Because I know it changed a couple times where you could use it, but you couldn't use the taint check. And, I probably think it would be that one. I mean, both the rules you guys stated, I know I've played those ones both wrong too. I think I'm going to go with that one. I think I do it right now.
Well, I have an update for you since, I have agreed that I will work on, hobby stuff as we're recording. And as I'm cutting my very first spica off the sprues, I've already managed to lose a piece.
Oh, no.
Oh.
And they are so many little friggin' pieces.
Learn from Brian, look behind the desk.
Yeah.
Because they do bounce.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's go on to another one that Andrew sent us. So he wants to know, what is something you wish was removed or wasn't removed in the game? I'm not sure if he means like a rule or an ability or something, but kind of something that we wish wasn't removed or we wish was removed.
The Enlightened. I hate those guys.
Oh, man. That hurt, Tommy. Man. I'll put some ice pack on it already.
I don't know if there's a particular rule or unit. I'll tell you what. There is one rule that I hate, and it's such a core rule, and so many models have it, and it drives me up a wall. I really dislike the Quick and the Dead. I really, really dislike that rule. I find that if I have a unit of 10 hands firing on your guy and you're just like, oh, I'm just going to Quick and the Dead that. And I'm 10 guys just didn't fire at you. I really, really dislike.
Well, it works different now for hands. If the guy's facing the hands, like a unit like a face, yeah, I could see why you would hate that. But yeah, with hands, it works a little bit different now.
Yeah, they changed it a little bit so that it takes away the number of hits. Yeah. But in my experience so far, it pretty much takes away everything. And I just find it one of the most frustrating, like, gotcha kind of rules. Drives me up a wall.
Okay.
Hate that rule.
Do you get anything that you, let's see, wish... So you don't like that. You wish that was removed. Was removed or wasn't in the game. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. I'm reading this question wrong. You got anything, Brian?
I don't like the idea of the youngers no longer being on foot. Because we have the models. So they got rid of the card, and so it was like all the people who used to have those couldn't even use them. But since 1.09, Stuart did add those cards back so we could use them.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that I'm not looking forward to is if they come out as mounted options in a posse box, if we lose the ability to use them on foot.
Yeah.
I'd rather we have both options, because especially with Robert is a melee guy.
Yeah.
With daggers, and him using daggers while running around on his iron horse just seems weird.
Let's see. I have a rule that I don't really like in the game, mainly because everybody that I play, and myself included, we usually forget this rule. So it's almost like, why bother, is the yeller checks. We never really even think
Remember
of
to use them.
Yeah, because I don't know if a lot of times it's like if you do have those large units where they're getting just massacred by whatever big nasty boss or creature out there that we don't even have to think of it. You never have the opportunity to use it. I'm not saying that it's a useless rule, but we just never use it or remember to use it. So I think that's one that I'm not a big fan of.
I've had that used on me where my opponent has reminded me that, you got to take a yeller check, and I've lost my Gatling gun guys because of it. So if you remember it, it can actually be a big deal if you remember to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't remember to do it. My opponent did. So, and it sucked, but them's the rules.
Yeah.
And that's I think that it can. I get what you're saying. It's a tough one to remember to do.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually a very impactful one.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's
if you remember to?
Do you think it's like too powerful type thing where it could swing the game too much?
It could
be.
No.
I mean, when you think about it, to take a yeller check, your unit has pretty much been decimated already anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So when you think, well, I'm salty that I lost my Gatling gun guy. Well, that's because I had my guys set up so that my Gatling gun guy would be the last one to die.
Yeah.
So he wasn't long for the world any which way. But if you get another round of shooting, I'm sure my opponent was happy to not have to have another round of Gatling guns coming at him. So it can be impactful if you remember it.
Yeah, I guess that's the key, is to remember it. Put a little.
Well, and also there are other key abilities that some of your bosses have that actually make them worth having on the table if you remember that rule, right? Being able to use your boss, their mind, to do the yeller check.
That's true too.
Good boon if you have it. So I have a feel. I like it. I've never really had a bad experience. I mean, when you fail your roll, I mean, it sucks, but it's never turned the game,
Okay.
Because it's usually a hand, and when I play lawman, I only have a couple of hands anyway. Yeah. So if it happens, that unit was already probably on the way. Like Tom said, it really was. Whether the last guy sticks around or not, yeah.
Come on, Skippy can do it though.
Where it makes a difference is if that unit was holding an objective.
Yeah.
That was the case in the one time that I failed my yeller check, was that unit was holding an objective. And all of a sudden that unit's just gone. And you're like, wow, that sucked. But it wasn't like, oh, that's a stupid rule. It was just like, wow, that really sucked a lot. Stupid coward guys. So, that was more what it was like.
All right, so he's got some more questions here for us. He wants to know, it's kind of a two-parter. He wants to know, what is one unit you feel is overcosted? And then the second part is undercosted. Overcosted. Well, overcosted, you're going to probably, I can't think of any at the top of my head, but
there's quite a few. I mean, there are some that are when you look at them, when you compare them to someone else in a different faction, there's a lot of models that you look at them and go, why is he that much? But someone who does something way worse in a different faction is 40 points cheaper, know, and then, and some of it is because of, I guess they weigh different abilities, and some abilities over time have been seen as super powerful, but then have been nerfed, but the cost evaluation for having that ability hasn't been adjusted. One of which is stun. So stun used to be worded to where like the entire unit gets the stun. Yeah. Well, now it's just the model. Well, when they changed that, they didn't change the cost on the card. So when it was really badass, stun was so powerful, the cost made sense. Well, now that's not what stun does. You still have all these stun models that are overpriced because stun is not as good as it used to, because it only affects the one model that you're hitting. Yeah. But stun used to be great crowd control because you would hit one model in a unit and the entire unit would be affected. So now that they don't do that anymore, it's they haven't adjusted that cost, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good explanation of it because it's kind of hard to pick just like one unit. When you look at like abilities like you did, Brian, it's a little bit easier to say, okay, these guys with stun, okay, how much do they cost? It's easier to say, yeah, these guys are kind of expensive now, whereas before they made sense. I mean, I feel that way about Dr. C. I used to use him all the time in first edition, and now in second edition, I don't like using him because his abilities aren't as effective anymore. Right. Well, his blunderbuss got nerfed back. Yeah, and he feels like he's too much, cost of points to lead my posse when there's other bosses that, may be about the same price range, but their abilities are more effective. Right.
And that's where, when you say something's overcosted, I don't think there's any units in this game, or many units in this game, that are just useless. Yeah. But what ends up happening, and when you see people post their lists up and things like that, they're all pretty similar. And to me, that means that there are certain units that are just clearly head and shoulders above other units. One I'll toss out there are gun dogs. There are way too many dogs especially in lawman posses, because frankly, Gatling guns are super powerful. Yeah. And you can just mount cheap Gatling guns on dogs. And that just becomes a mobile, very powerful unit that just doesn't cost very much. No. So to me, I think that those are actually undercosted because of the proliferation of them. And I think that's where you can make a pretty good judgment on, what really has a cost that's out of line with its power is what's a unit that just never gets left off a list? What's a unit that if you said, hey, we're going to have a tournament and I want you to bring your best, everyone's going to show up with gun dogs in a lawman list, and in a lot of other lists too, but a lot of people do. And that's because they are very, very strong for their cost. That's one that jumps out to me right away in my mind is like, hey, cheap Gatling guns that can run around the field, awesome. So I don't know, in some other factions, what do you see? Where do you see the same models showing up in and out of every posse? And I think that's where you say, wow, these are the things that maybe the cost needs to be looked at. What are the models that never get taken? There's always models where you look at, you're like, yeah, it's good, but the cost just doesn't feel good about it. And I think that's where you really kind of need to look at those kind of things. Okay. Right. All right. One more for our mailbag here, and Andrew asked, what is our most anticipated release for 2020? I think I can say that we kind of got it. I always look forward to it every year, is their con exclusive model. Last year we got
a little sneak peek into Lost World, and the year before that was Nakano, and this year we got Teddy on. What did we say, Tom, the other day? A Teddy Raptor instead of Teddy Bear?
Yep.
So I think that would be mine. Hopefully you guys weren't going to say that because I kind of stole it.
So
Mine's,
I'm not... Oh, you go ahead, Brian.
No, I'll let you.
Well, I was going to say I'm not sure because I don't know what's happened to the schedule now with coronavirus and how it's affecting different parts of the world and everything. I'm not sure what the release schedule looks like. I've been chomping at the bit for Iron Horses for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping that they were going to come out this year. I'm not so sure that they're going to, and they're probably not going to come out probably till Lost World comes out, which I'm not sure when that's going to be.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah.
So
they've already picked it the next year. So what the plan is, if they can get up and running again, right? So that if the UK unlocks their restrictions soon enough, we'll see. They've already teasered several Lost World Exodus single models and the Nautilus box set. So those are at least far enough along that they've showed us the box art, and they're saying, hey, these are going to come out sometime this year. Then things kind of slow down. So the goal was to have those released during the year, kind of like they've been doing with some of the other Lost World Exodus things they've released. Is like, it's kind of a combo. It's like, hey, here's some stuff that you can use in Wild West Exodus, but it's basically to throw chum in the waters for Lost World Exodus, which was supposed to come out this year, but they pushed it back because Dystopian Wars got pushed back. So that's one of the reasons they pushed it back even farther, is because they want the fall release to be Dystopian Wars. So that's their goal. And as long as they can get things back up running, they're going to try to stick with as much as that as possible.
Yeah.
But that's also why they're not telling us any other stuff, right? Because they already committed to a little bit of stuff. They're wanting to make sure they don't change that as much.
Yeah, they don't want to get too far out ahead, and like you said, things would change and anything.
The thing I was looking most forward to is the Next Order posse set.
Okay.
Which is the character they introduced, it's like something Callus, or I probably butchering the name, but it's the one where it has very Spike-looking faces in the group, and one of them has like eagles, and one of the models has like a attack raptor or a bird of prey kind of thing, and then the other one has like dogs.
Okay.
So that kit, and it was something like the Hunters of the Taint.
Oh yeah, I do remember.
I remember now.
I remember you say, Hunters of the Taint. Hunt some taint.
Hunters of the Tainted or something.
Wow.
Does that come with a bar of soap?
Wow. We'll send the bush rangers out after that one.
No, the tail hunters.
Oh my God.
We're so bad.
Sorry, I'm like a friggin' 9-year-old.
All right, well, that's going to about do it for our mailbag bonanza here. Thank you, Andrew, for sending in some questions. You guys want to send in some questions? Could be anything. Could be what's our favorite ice cream to eat at midnight. We don't care. Just, drop us a line on the email, or, these ones that Andrew sent in, we got off of the Facebook page. So if you go on there, I have it pinned to the top, a little questionnaire. You can submit questions in that thread. But I think that's going to about do it.
I'm currently feeling the Double Dunker by Turkey Hill. So coffee ice cream with some chocolate brownie and cookie dough bits in it. It's delicious.
Well, I kind of think I know why before we hit record you were saying that you're putting on some weight.
No, I've dropped weight. Dropped weight,
okay.
I've been fighting the urge to eat that kind of stuff. I've dropped 7 pounds since quarantine started.
You getting swollen?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I'd say I'm the opposite. I'm getting the opposite of that. What's the opposite?
Shriveled?
Deflated?
Yeah, deflated.
I'm deflating.
Well, that's going to be about it for our babble in the beginning. Let's get into our smoke wagon today and in theme with our Warrior Nation.
Go ahead, skin it. Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens.
Listen, mister, I'm getting awful tired of your...
I'm getting tired of your gas. Now jerk that pistol and go to work. I said throw down, boy.
All right, guys, we got Smoke-Wagon Showdown for you again this episode. And to go with our theme that we were talking about, Warrior Nation, we're going to look at a model that I think we've been needing to do her for a while, Brian. And I think we're finally just now going to jump into her.
Right. So she made the short list when we first started doing the showdown because she has a really iconic way of presenting her in a showdown. And then once we started doing the showdowns, we're getting a lot of positive feedback and suggestions of who should we do next. And then some of the releases kind of triggered us to, we need to do this one.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of like moved on. And then Eric and I were just chatting the other day. We're like, hey, which one we should do? And we're like, we both kind of like at the same time was like, we hadn't done, Walks Looking yet. And he was like, dude, it's still on the list. We just there.
Yeah, and she's one of those popular models, going way back that for some reason we just didn't do her. I mean, I see her in almost every Warrior Nation list. So yeah, we're gonna actually talk a little bit about her fluff too in this showdown, because who we're gonna pit her against is her darker side from the Dark Nation.
So that's one of the most unique parts of some of the lore of the game is Walks Looking. She has a very cool backstory. She's the daughter of the main leader of the Warrior Nation, Ghost Wolf, and she's another natural leader, right? And of course, in the fluff, she's blind, but the Great Spirit gifted her with sight through the spirits.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why she's got her eyes covered, but she can still see, and she's seeing with the aid of the Great Spirit, because she's attuned to the Great Spirit in such a great way that she's able to do it that way. And I'm gonna pull up and see what some of the blurbs in her.
Yeah, I always thought was neat is that she reminded me of like Daredevil from Marvel Comics, in a way. He's blind, but yeah, he had that enhanced abilities that he kind of could see still.
Right.
Yeah, she's everybody calls her the little ninja. She's like a little ninja out there.
Right. So she's a melee boss. So she's going to be heavy in melee. So one of the things that frustrated Walks Looking the most as she grew up amongst all the other warriors and Ghost Wolves, being the super, leader of their tribes, was that she wasn't getting the true spirit forms, right? She obviously was gifted with the spirit, but she wasn't transforming like her father was.
Yeah.
So it was really kind of frustrating for her. So she started searching how to make her own mark. So she started trying to find who her spirit animal was in the hopes that she could be a spirit walker like all the others and maybe pick up the wolf like her father or the hawk. Through meditation, she kept getting answers and insights, and that disquieted the elders as much as her newfound abilities were hailed as a miracle. So she started getting all these powers, but it wasn't what she was looking for. So she threw herself into protecting her people. She was heroic, but she started having strange experiences and thoughts. She started having forgetful gaps in memory. And then she woke up drenched with blood in her mouth. So she started having these weird things where she's waking up bloody. So she started trying to find out what was going on, but it was difficult for her because she didn't want other people to know. So what was happening was she was being tainted. right, by the dark powers of the hex. So several years she lived as this tainted creature. So where Walks Looking fell to the dark side through the taint of the hex.
Yeah.
And she became Wiccasansi for years. So she was like corrupted, living away from her people, and became basically a leader of the Dark Nation. So Ghost Wolf obviously knew she disappeared, right? And he knew that she turned dark. And of course, he's got to save her, right? So he led a raid to try to find her. And eventually he does capture her, but realize that this is something wrong, right? So with the help of Raven's spirit, they seared her soul with the energy of the Great Spirit. But what happened is they couldn't heal her, but the Great Spirit separated the good Walks Looking from the evil tainted Walks Looking, or Wackasan. So the searing of the soul and the split of the two left two Walks Looking. One was the evil, much more evil now, because the good that was there while she was tainted is now gone.
Yeah.
So purified and restored, Walks Looking is now, I guess, through a baptism of tainted fire, she's now back with her people. But she's different, right? She's now different. And we're going to talk about what those differences are.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So the first version of Walks Looking we're to discuss is the Walks Looking before falling to the dark.
Yeah.
And that is the boss
This
card.
is the boss card. All right. So let's look at Walks Looking, her boss card. For Warrior Nation, she's human, female. Go over the rest of her stats. She has a fortune of 3, and she cost 160. She's unique. And then we got her stats. So let's look at her stats, Brian.
All right. Well, she got quick 6. She's got a mind of 7. She has a aim of 0, which basically means she's not throwing or shooting any weapons. She has a grit of 6. She has a fight of 7 and a limit of 3.
Okay. Common rules. You got her pulled up, Tommy?
Okay. Well, she's got Metal, The Quick and the Dead, Largesse, Target Priority, Trial Finder, and Agile.
Okay. She's got quite a bit of common rules there.
Right.
Weapons. She don't have much to choose from there, Brian.
Yeah, no, she's just kind of like just the Spirit Blades. So she's melee only. The Spirit Blades have attuned, and they crit to fatal. So attuned, just a reminder, attuned is where you the pierce of the weapon is half of the mind. So you jump up to the stat wheel and you see she's got a mind of 7. Remember, we round up. So half of 8 is 4. So her Spirit Blades are pierce 4. And on crit, they become fatal because she's using 2 of these blades. You have a rate of attack of 2, and the range is 1 inch. So she can stretch out a little with these little Spirit blades.
Get out there a little bit.
So right off to the bat, we're already, the pretty good weapon profile.
Yeah.
The Pierce 4, obviously. So when she's attacking, she's going to want to use some, trigger attuned and, get things churned up pretty good. Then she's got special rules that actually can further
make her nasty.
You want to go with that first one, sir?
Yeah, I'll go with Quick Strike. So her first special rule. Once per activation, if this unit successfully hits with a strike action, it may make a second strike action at the same or a different target for just 1 action point rather than the usual 2 for the repeated action. So she's a little cost effective. She'll save you a little bit on those action points.
Right. So the next one is Instinctive Strike. So successful strike actions by this unit cannot be re-rolled. So this is pretty good power for a melee person, right? Yeah. She, no matter who she's hit, there's no way to force her to re-roll her strikes, which is very useful.
I can't think of anybody off the top of my head that has that. That's a melee person that has that. it's kind of neat because it makes her unique in a way. You know, it adds to her how she's that deadly assassin, really.
Right. You got the next one there, Tommy?
Yeah, we've got Bull Rush. This unit can focus charge actions for no additional cost. Free strike actions do not benefit from this rule. So anytime you can free focus something, that's nice.
Yeah.
No cost focus is always a bonus.
Right.
All right, and the last one is Child of the Great Spirit. So this unit ignores the penalty for uneven ground and may reroll yeller checks if subject to them. The unit may not be included in posses with tainted or automata units. So no robots, no hex nastiness. So for a boss, she's very straightforward. Yeah.
Right, she's narrow focus.
She's gonna hit you hard, and it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt.
So let's jump over to her dark side. Wakasansi. She's boss, legendary, hex, spirit, female, dark nation, flight, and tainted.
I love the artwork for this card too, by the way.
Right. So her resculpt by War Cradle is amazing.
Yes.
As cool as the original one was from the second Kickstarter, the version that Roberto and War Cradle envisioned is way wicked. I mean, it is so cool.
All right, so let's see. She's got a fortune of 3. She cost $195, so she's a little bit more than Walk's Looking.
And we'll get to why.
Yeah. Her other side of the card is very full, and she is unique. So then we move on to her stats.
Yeah, she's also quick 6. She's got a mind of 6, aim of 5, a grit of 6, a fight of 6, and a limit, drum roll, 4.
Yeah. So she's going to be doing some more out there.
All right. For common rules, she's got Metal, The Quick and the Dead, Largesse, Target Priority, and Shrouded.
So I like the Shrouded.
Shrouded's not one we see a lot. What's that one all about?
So it's basically any successful aim checks on her have to be re-rolled, if I remember off the top of my head. So it's kind of like it simulates her flying, moving around.
No.
No?
Shrouded is typically not because you're moving fast, like a flight would probably be moving target. Shrouded is typically like a dark power. It just
it's hard to like pin her down.
It's like spirit hiding, so a lot of the dark the hex have Shrouded because they're hit because of the mysticism about them more than them moving fast. They're shrouded in the dark arts.
I don't think I ever really thought of that way, but it makes more sense.
Yeah. Or like I think some of the other units that have it are like the rebels, snipers.
Oh, because
they're wearing camo.
Yeah,
they're wearing camo, so they're hard to see because they're actively hiding, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's look at her weapons.
Yeah. So her melee weapon is Fell Blades. And this is basically a evil version of Spirit Blades. They have parry, and then they crit to fatal. They have no range and have pierce 1, and because there's 2 of them, ROA of 2.
So she's got to be right on you base to base with that sucker.
Right. And when she's not, she has Sonic Screech, which is an aimed weapon. It's a torrent with engulf.
So you got to use that little template.
Right. You use the blast template, and it's, the prolonged teardrop from her. And, all the models inside the template get hit with the Pierce 3 and an ROA of 1.
1. Yeah, I like that weapon. I mean, if you can line her up right to basically scream at a bunch of dudes that you can get them to all do a grit check, with a -3.
Pierce 3. It's a really, really effective taunt. I mean, it's got engulf, so you're hitting around the corner. Of line of sight stuff. It's really. So on to special rules.
All right, I'll take the first one. So here's where we get to why she costs so much. Dark Council. So you may deploy a single hexalith during deployment for each unit with this rule in your force. For 1 action point, this unit may select a tainted unit, friend or foe, within 8 inches. That target unit must make a mind check. If the check is passed, nothing happens. If the check fails, a model in that unit or entire unit, if friendly, is compelled and must immediately make an action of this unit's choice. This is a free action which cannot be focused or use fortune. For the duration of the action, the compelled model counts as a friendly to this unit. You cannot compel models with automata, structure, or legendary traits. So she can basically get a friend or a foe to, do a mind check. If they fail, well, she can control them, make them do something, shoot at their buddy, or, you can maybe make somebody, move type thing to push them forward.
So her next power is inspirational. Any friendly unit, excluding itself, within 6 inches may re-roll a single die during their activation.
I always like to think of this one with her is that she's scaring her troops, shitless. So it's like, oh, we got to do better. She's gonna eat them.
This is one of those rules that I forget about a lot. That's a pretty great rule.
Right. So the key of this one is it happens during the activation of the friendly units, not hers. So that's why you forget it sometimes. Is it really makes you remember your 6-inch placing, and it's easy to forget.
And a lot of times, if you do remember, it's easy to be like, "Oh crud, I'm out of that bubble."
Right.
All right. Next up, we've got Instinctive Strikes. We just talked about that on Walks Looking. Successful strike actions by this unit cannot be re-rolled.
Yeah, I was just comparing to see how they are similar. And it makes sense that they kind of have the sum of the same abilities. It's like the other half. Your other side. Let's see. What do we got next there? I can't read mine, Brian. Can you read it? Mine crumpled up. I can't even read it.
Let me pull it up again. Okay. So the next one is Innervate. For 1 action point, this unit may select a non-legendary enemy unit in line of sight within 12 inches. The target must pass a mind check. If the check is failed, the selected unit immediately uses D5 fortune checks. So basically, it's a way of draining fortune off of a model. The downside is it's a mind check, so you're betting on whoever you're doing it, who has more than likely going to have a 5 or 6 or more mind, because it's going to be a boss you're going to try to steal fortune off of, or not steal it, but drain the fortune. So
I mean, something like that would be good for if you're getting ready to, say, go after a face. And if you can drain that face of their fortune, and maybe just one, but it takes that option away from them if they have, the fortune of focusing or re-rolling. So,
wow, that could also be really useful against somebody like Custer, who's carrying around 8. You're just like, you don't have that anymore. I think that could be devastating.
Yeah, it's just like Brian said, it'll be tough depending on what their mind is. So, but they're dice are fickle.
Yep.
All right, so I'll do the next one. Embrace the Hex. I just like the sound of this. Embrace the Hex. For 1 action point, the unit may select a target unit, friendly or foe, within 8 inches. The target must make a mind check. If the check is passed, nothing happens. If the check fails, The selected unit is stunned and gains the tainted trait. So you can stun somebody, and if you have some kind of ability that it specifically targets tainted things, or maybe you have
like council.
Yeah, exactly. So then you can compel them to do something.
Yep. So yeah, Embrace the Hex is really useful for Dark Counselors because Dark Council only works on tainted models. So when you're facing the Order, you're not going to have any opponents models that are going to have tainted. So Embrace the Hex is like, well, now you will.
Yeah. I mean, you could use that against the lawmen too, because a lot of the lawmen aren't tainted either.
Right. I think there's only 2 or 3 in their roster that are tainted. So yeah, same thing. You can drop it on to help you use it later. Dark Council. So yeah, definitely. Also to note that you gain that trait. You gain it. There's no.
Yeah, it's not per turn. It's
activation. It's not a temporary thing. It's for the game.
So it'd probably be a good idea to have some kind of token or something that you can put on that guy that you just corrupted.
As a reminder, right?
Yeah.
So the next one, what do you got there, Tom?
Next up is Hardy. The unit may reroll failed grit checks.
Man, he's getting the easy ones. What the heck?
You don't think I can just pronounce things, out of the goodness of my soul and everything? I just pick easy things.
You're gonna have to redo this whole thing. Okay, so then her last power is Flight or Fight. This is a reaction. When this unit is nominated as a target of a charge, the unit may spend a point of fortune to immediately be placed D5 inches from its current position. This placement must be to a point directly away from the charging unit. This placement cannot be into impassable terrain or cause the unit to engage. So it basically is the pigeon move.
Yep.
Get close and it just flutters in its wings and just backs away. Hopefully get out of the range of the charge or.
I like this rule since, when did we get this? It was with the new 1.09 rules, right?
Right, yes. It was basically brought up by a war host during the discussions, and it was well received. Everyone was like, that is a good idea. That's a neat little flight-related power. Basically, they came up with it because of the legendary bird rider and the Warrior Nation birds, right? And so it was like, well, they're birds. So they gave it one of the other flight, models as well. So comparing Walk's looking boss versus Wiccasansi boss legendary, 160 to 195 for the additional cost. She picks up quite a list of powers.
A lot more abilities.
Dark Council. She's getting inspirational, Embrace the Hex. I mean, there's a lot more power behind Wiccasansi.
A lot of manipulation type powers.
And as there should be, she's a legendary.
Right. There's definitely an upgrade involved here. When Wiccasansi is captured and Raven Spirit does the big spirit voodoo magic and separates the two halves, Walk's looking becomes legendary, but she's a face.
Yeah.
So, Stuart mentioned that the reason they did one of the reasons that happened is now that she doesn't have her more bloodthirsty drives, right? So she's not the same eager to combat, right? So she can lead, but she's reluctant to lead because of she's missing that aggressive nature of herself.
Yeah. I mean, looking at
doesn't mean she's not deadly.
Doesn't
mean she's not deadly.
I mean, she overall her stats stay the same, and she doesn't increase in price too much. Where her change comes is a lot of her special rules. She gets some different ones that kind of go with theme.
She picks up the legendary trait, right? Mm-hmm. She the cost goes up to 190 from 160 to 190. The only stat that changes is her limit.
Yeah.
Her weapons, she's still using spirit blades. They don't change. Now her common rules did change. So she's got metal, quicken the dead, target priority, and moving target.
Okay. Yeah, whereas before she had trail finder and agile to go more with that charging in and in attacking type role.
Her special rules, she picks up some new ones. The first one we already mentioned, she's a face, but she can be a boss, so she has underboss. This unit may replace the face trait for a boss trait, adding 20 points. So if she's going to be a legendary boss, she jumps to 210 points. Mm-hmm. And she picks up another fortune and the largesse common rule. So she goes to fortune of 4, and she picks up largesse so she can share it with the posse that she can bring. Now, she cannot bring the theme posse that she used to be able to use as Walks Low. Mm-hmm. She can't use her theme as legendary underboss, because that's one of the restrictions of underboss is you can use a faction posse, you just can't bring a theme. Mm-hmm. So two of the special rules she had from before, which is Instinctive Strike and Child of the Great Spirit, which gives her, ignores penalties for hunting ground, may reroll yellow checks if she's subject to them. The unit may not be included in posses with tainted or automaton. But she picks up some more. Eric, what are some of the new ones?
So she gets elusive. So backstab reactions against this unit suffer a -4 penalty. Ouch. So you're in melee with her. You're in melee with her.
Right. Well, what elusive means is she can move out of the engagement, and if you try to hit her, your attack is going to be at -4. So she's basically moving so fast.
Yeah.
She can move out of combat, and it's hard for you to actually
do anything about it. Yeah. I like that. That's a neat ability.
Yep.
Right. And it kind of fits because, she's already got moving target. She's got elusive. She picks up the next new one she has is called Rapid. So she can focus moves for no additional cost. So it signifies that she's a much more fast moving unit.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about, cinematically, what you're thinking about here is she's that little ninja girl that's just running through groups of people and, slicing open artery here, the carotid there, the femoral over here. And she's just moving through the groups, whacking everybody.
Right.
Which is really kind of a cool visual, especially with how her model actually looks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Model.
So the next thing she picked up is Death Dealer. While this unit is engaged, each successful hit caused by this unit on an enemy unit they are engaged with causes a further automatic hit to that unit. Automatic hits like these and from qualities like Brutal cannot generate further hits from the Death Dealer rule. Nice and simple there. You start stacking extra hits.
Yeah.
And that's what leads to dead enemies.
Right. So that her ROA of 2 can become an ROA of 4.
Yeah. That's a chance to double your hits. Heck yeah.
So, and then the last ability she picks up is Rally. Any friendly units, excluding this one, of course, within 10 inches may automatically pass any yellow tracks.
Okay, so yeah, she's kind of firing them up.
Right.
All right. Well, that was our look at Walks Looking and her darker side there.
Well, we haven't discussed their themes, right? So the Dark Nation theme posse that Wekasansi can bring, if all 6 slots are filled with at least one unit in the posse, then Wekasansi gains +1 to her limit.
So she's limit 5 then? No problem.
Right.
Jeez.
So let's go through her bullets, right? So the first bullet is a Hex Dark Nation unit, so open wide. The second one is up to 2 Hex Dark Nation units. Mind you, key is up to 2. So she can just do 1. So if she wants to get to the 6 slot a little faster and still have points left over. The third one is a Hex Dark Nation unit. The fourth one, 2 guesses, it's a Hex Dark Nation unit. The fifth one, same. The sixth one is up to 2 Hex Dark Nation units. So she can basically fill up this posse and have 8 Dark Nation units. Or she can just go to 6 and get to that +1 limit a little faster.
Yeah.
So you'd have to basically jump into the Hex list and say, hey, what are the units that, pick up that, Dark Nation, right? So you would jump down, let's see, Littlefoot, Nekritu, Orket, all have Dark Nation, Legendary Kali, Nizhoni, Kemazats, Seke, all carry that, right? So
you just got to look for
good list
Dark Nation, basically.
Right.
And that's a pretty easy way to build out her list, is, just take all those guys that have Dark Nation and just plop them in there. This list is not restrictive at all.
No, it's not. Thing to remember is the Reaver Headhunters and the Reaver Harriers are also Dark Nation hands. The Tree Walkers are also Dark Nation hands. So you have those options. The Hexed Skin Shifter is a support unit, also something you can bring in the Dark Nation. The Reaver Berserker, which is their Iron Horse option. So, I mean, she has a pretty open-ended way of bringing a lot of things to bear.
Yeah.
Very useful, So it seems a Dark Nation unit, but there's enough Dark Nation units to where she can bring in a variety of stuff.
Yeah.
The other issue is she can bring vehicles whenever she wants.
Yeah, you don't have to wait to that 6th slot to get a big, heavy vehicle.
Well, there's no big, heavy vehicle, but you can bring in a unit of the Reaver Berserkers, which are Iron Horses. So she can bring those slot 1.
That's right.
And which is very useful if you want to get those in quicker,
Yeah. I see a lot of numbers crunching with this list, kind of like when we built that list for Tom, let's try this, let's try that, and, point it out and then decide, okay, I have points left over, I can maybe up this hands unit, or, take another bike.
Right. Well, the downside of the Reaver Berserkers, so you have to bring at least 2, but you can bring as many as 10.
Where's the downside?
Well, it's not for Wekasansi. It's the downside for whoever's having to face off between a unit of 10 juiced Gatling guns, rate of attack of 4.
It's fine. They're not overpowered at all.
Well, don't they have an ability that they'll turn on their own guys too, though?
Right. So one of the things to consider is Berserker. After the first game turn, when the unit activates, it must pass a mind check to activate as normal. If it fails, the unit must try to engage the closest enemy unit within 18 inches and line of sight, or if there are no enemy unit range, the closest friendly one in line of sight. When making a walk, ram, or charge action, the unit must always travel by the shortest route possible to that nominated unit.
So yeah, they could possibly technically go after their own buddies.
With the juice to axe, which is overcharged and crits on decapitate, pierce 3. So basically what happens is it in the second or later rounds, there's a chance that you fail your mind check of a 5, so they have a 5 mind, and this entire big giant unit may rush into engaging one of your own models.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what.
That's bringing a whole herd of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like playing orcs in Warhammer. You're like, maybe they'll do something awesome for you. Maybe they'll do something awesome against you. We don't know.
Just roll your die. All right, so let's jump over and check out the theme posse for Box Looking.
All right, and as we mentioned before, this is just for her boss, not the legendary underboss.
Right. So the tribal retribution theme. If the boss and 5 or more slots are filled with at least one unit in the posse, then all faces in the posse gain Trailfinder and Prodigious. Box Looking only unit with the boss trait permitted in this posse. You may not include legendary Walks Looking.
Yep. And we've seen that before with the different models that have the legendary version of themselves. This, right off the bat, is telling me, fill this sucker with faces. You know?
Right. So the first slot is Warrior Nation face or Youngblood unit, which is Youngblood is one of the hands units. Slot 2 is a Warrior Nation face and or hands unit.
Okay.
The third slot, a Warrior Nation face unit and or non-beast support unit. A Warrior Nation face unit and or a non-beast support unit. The fifth slot is up to 2 Warrior Nation hands or support units. So slot 5 is the first one her posse could bring in beast supports.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 6th slot is up to 2 Warrior Nation face or hands units.
So, yeah, just about all those slots have faces that you could put in there and then potentially get that Trailfinder and Prodigious.
Well, you basically slots 1, 2, 3, 4 can bring in faces and or the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Slot 5 is not going to have any faces in it. And then slot 6 is either faces or hand.
Mm-hmm.
So you can take 2 faces or you can take 2 hand units, but it does not mean you can take a combo of the 2.
Yeah.
Right? It's either one or the other. So
yeah, this theme list has a little more flexibility in it with what you can do, because there's Warrior Nation has some good choices for, well, like slot 5 with the supports, which we're going to talk about a little bit later coming up. And they got plenty to pick from for the faces. So
yeah, I mean, she basically enjoys bringing some faces because she could benefit. They benefit for joining her, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that they all pick up Trailfinder and Prodigious, so they get a +1 on top of any uses of the fortune, is really useful, right? So where, and it's similar to the way Wekasansi is face heavy as well. She has some really good faces that she can bring into her posse, and that's offset. So these would be 2 very heavy face, battles, because you're both going to try to bring faces, and you're definitely going to bring some of those Dark Nation faces in Wekasansi, and then have some support with some hands and maybe some support units. And same thing with, Tribal Retribution. You're going to want to bring in as many faces as you can as you get up to slot 5 to trigger Trailfinder and Prodigious. But then you're also going to want to bring in some of those hands units and support units to make sure you grab hold of objectives.
Yes, exactly.
Pressure fire, so
you always got to be thinking of those objectives.
Right.
And also taking a hit for one of those faces.
Yeah. All right. Well, so 1-on-1 with boss versus legendary boss. If we were to see these guys show down, what are we thinking here? I think I know which way I'm going when it comes boss to boss, and that's just based on abilities. I think because they're both kind of aggressive in your face, but I think Wakasani, with the having a higher limit, she has more weapon options for one, so she actually has a ranged option. And then, I mean, just the special rules that she has, I think is going to put her a little bit ahead of walks, just one-on-one.
Yeah, one-on-one.
I mean, we've said this in the past, the whole melee versus, a shooty.
Yeah, but she can't use the torrent in close combat. So once they're engaged, it's not going to matter. She loses that advantage, right?
Yeah.
So the key is the other abilities, right? Death Dealer is adding to the risk of getting hit, right? She's also ignoring Shrouded with her strikes, right? So the defensive ability of Shrouded is ignored completely. Actually, that's a melee. That's a aim issue anyway, so it wouldn't matter once you're in target.
Death Dealer, the legendary has that, right?
Thought we were doing legendary.
Oh, are we gonna do legendary?
I thought that's what you said.
No, I said legendary versus boss walks.
Oh, okay.
But if we do the legendary, you're right. That's gonna make a big difference. Shoot, I closed the card too. I gotta open it back up.
As much as I hate it, I agree with Eric completely on this one.
Wow.
Well, Eric, you and I usually end up on different sides of these smoke wagons.
Well, yeah, we do usually. We definitely got different tastes than these guys.
But I agree with you. Just the sheer number of abilities. Now, that's not to say that Walks doesn't have a chance. She's pretty good at melee herself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that she doesn't have a chance, but probably 4 out of 5 times she's going to lose this matchup.
Yeah, regular Walks looking is.
I don't think it'll stand up to her. Yeah, but I think the legendary
versus legendary is a much even fight.
Yeah,
and that is when you get into it's literally going to be down to the what fails and what sticks.
Yeah,
because the Death Dealer is going to be a huge tip in her direction, and Wekasansi's, whether or not she gets into some of the using of the Embrace the Hex and stuff like that, obviously would tip things towards her, but her fail blades just aren't as good, right? They're only Pierce 1, so if they're in hand-to-hand, she just can't compete because she's only rolling ROA of 2 with a Pierce 1.
Yeah, where Walks can just attune her attack. And like you said, Death Dealer doubling their.
And her not going to help her at all because you can't make her reroll her successful strikes. So that's also something to think of. Walks looking. That's why I think Tom is right that she could sometimes be able to hold her own, but it's not as consistent, and mainly because with Quick Strike she's getting that second hit cheaper, but with the tuned Pierce 4, ROA of 2 versus Fell Blades of parry, which you can't even use parry.
Yeah, so it mutes it.
Which, I mean, from a who these characters are standpoint, it kind of makes sense. Walks Looking is one of the really iconic characters of the game, I think, and has been since first edition. She's always just sort of been one of those major characters. So I think it makes sense that her good side, is overpowering the evil side in general, at least in the legendary form.
Right.
From a narrative standpoint, I'm saying.
It's very close though. It's very close because they are similar in a lot of abilities. Like you can't be forced to re-roll something. That's one ability they both have.
Right.
But I
don't think this one's a foregone conclusion like Custer was. Mm-hmm. Versus Kyle. I think that either one of them can definitely win.
Yeah.
It's not an automatic. I just think that the advantage lies heavily with legendary walks. And I think regular boss walks is the least likely.
Yeah.
And Wiccasanti's in between.
Right.
Yeah, and a lot of, looking at the abilities on Wiccasanti, her abilities are very posse, like a full game posse oriented, where she can manipulate other units and, in a broader range, not so much like if she's one-on-one with walks face-to-face. So
right,
if it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight, I think a majority of the time, legendary walks looking is going to take it.
Right. And I don't think that that's terribly different from some of the other smoke wagons that we've done.
Yeah.
The one-on-one outcome is very different than the posse-on-posse outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So in the posses, I do believe Dark Nation is going to be hard to topple.
Yeah.
For either of the two options. Trouble Retribution is a really good posse. Don't get me wrong. But the faces she has access to.
Yeah, the options.
I don't think compete against the faces that Wackasansi can bring.
Yeah.
Yep.
With trickery, powers, devastating. There's just more in her face that Wackasansi can bring, right?
Yeah.
And then when you combine the fact that she's going to have the ability to take her biggest nasty and give him a free attack through Dark Council, it just, you know what I mean? It's really hard to beat. And so I have a feeling that the darkness would win.
Heck yeah, Grizzly Bear with a double Gatling gun. Let's go mow him down.
He's not Dark Nation.
Really?
She actually is not a he anymore. She's a Carcosa.
Oh, see, I haven't looked at her card in a while.
Yeah, she is a Carcosa and not Dark Nation.
Wow. Okay. But overall, Dark Nation has a lot of ranged options.
Callie, the little spider chick, is extremely dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a thing of nightmares. Literally.
Yeah, I think just in general, I find Hex to be a very strong faction in pretty much any of its incarnations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to prepare for some of the shenanigans that they have because it's very unique abilities for a faction in the game.
Yep.
Well, all right. I think one-on-one, I'm going legendary walks, not regular walks. And then posse-wise, probably going with the Dark Nation.
I think I concur.
Brian?
I think we're unanimous.
Oh, man, we're unanimous. Have we had that yet? I don't think so.
I'm not sure that we have. I think we all kind of agreed that Kyle couldn't take on Custer.
No, I
think he did.
I'm denying it. Yeah. No, I'm not. I can't deny it. People just could go back and re-listen to it. I reluctantly agreed. But speaking of those guys, so we did post up a poll for them. We'll do the same thing for walks here. And if I can figure it out, I'll actually put... Should I split these two guys? Like put both regular walks and legendary walks? And I'm afraid it's going to split the vote. I think what I'm going to do is I'll put up both legendaries because I don't want to split the vote at all. But speaking of Custer and Kyle, ouch. This one was a landslide, guys. I think everybody agreed with us in the poll for these guys, and it was Armstrong 74% to 26%. I think the Luscious Locks did it.
I mean, you can't compete with that. You can't compete with that kind of hair.
Here, I think he was going to bring up the whole ranged option again, but no, it is the hair.
It's absolutely the hair.
Oh man! But we kind of thought that was going to happen just based on basic, abilities that he was going to get, eventually just mowed down. But we'll put up another poll for this episode's Smoke-Wagon with walks and her darker side and see what you guys think. So keep an eye open for that on the Facebook page. I usually share it, link it into the Dark Council so you guys can go on there and vote and chime in if you guys want to make a comment. But that's this episode's Smoke-Wagon, themed towards Warrior Nation. Let us, you guys, know what you think of kind of doing this little theme thing. I think it was kind of neat to do something like this. We've been, like me and Brian said earlier, we kind of been wanting to do these walks for a while. And just, I think it took us a little bit to get there, but we got there. So we'll go ahead and move out of the Smoke-Wagon and go on to something else in the show. Well, guys, we're going to bring back kind of an oldie here on the Blackhoof Saloon. We haven't done this in a while, but we're going to do a top 3. That's right, this is going to be a Blackhoof Saloon top 3, not an individual top 3. And we're also keeping in theme with Warrior Nation, and in this top 3, we're going to look at Warrior Nation support units. So I think I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into it and kick off with our number 3.
Here's number 3.
Okay, so the three of us discussed this list a little bit, and we kind of went back and forth of different support units in Warrior Nation that we thought should be on this list. And for number 3, we kind of settled on the Wayland Spirit Walkers for number 3. Now, the Wayland Spirit Walkers their models are kind of made up of, well, they're basically the werewolves. Some of them were older models that they just transferred into this unit. But let me go over the card and we'll go ahead and discuss then why we kind of put this on the list. So the Wayland Spirit Walkers are support Warrior Nation, Beast Male, Wayland, Spirit, and Walker. So those are their keywords. They cost 80 points per model. And then looking at their little stats they got on there, they're pretty fast. So they got a quick of 7, a mind of 5. Their aim is 2, grit of 5, their fight is 5, and they have a limit of 2. Let's see, let's jump down to their common rules. So their common rules, this unit consists of 1 to 3 models. A minimum size is 1, which costs 80 points. You may add further models up to 80 points each. This unit has metal and moving target. Now, I like that because metal is, you don't usually see that in the support models, which is a neat thing. And then I think it's fair to note that their base size is medium, so that can come into play when they're trying to surround people. And then jumping over to their weapons. So they start off with a melee weapon. It's a Razor Claws that has crit lethal, and it's a range of 1 inch. So you can tag somebody from 1 inch away with these. Has a piercing of -2. Rate of attack is 3. And then they also have Spirit Blades, which is attuned, which that's a neat special ability for weapons that takes advantage of their mind, and it affects the pierce. It is fatal on a crit, and then its range is also 1 inch. Pierce is 0, but as I just stated, the attuned can kind of manipulate that. Rate of attack is 2. And then the last weapon they have is also a melee. It's Fanged Maw, which has a natural brutal, tangled, and is refined. And then on a crit, it's fatal. Now this range is, they have the little dash, which means base to base. Piercing is -2. Rate of attack is 1. And then let's jump finally to their special rules. So they have Bull Rush. This unit can focus a charge action for no additional cost. Free strike actions do not benefit from this rule. Then they got Frenzy. For each critical success this model rolls during a fight check, this model may make a free strike action. The free strike action is still subject to Frenzy. Then they got Child of the Great Spirit. This unit ignores the penalty for uneven ground and may re-roll yellow checks if subject to them. The unit may not be included in posses with tainted or automata units. So no robots, no hex. And then it's got here we go, Tom. I'm going to screw it up.
You can do it.
I can do it. Ancillary. Is that close?
Ancillary.
Answer. I can't do it. My tongue just won't let me do it.
We all know what you mean.
So this unit suffers yeller checks, even though it is not a hands unit. So that is just a quick overview of the Wayland Spirit Walkers. What do you guys think of this, our number 3? Discuss a little bit.
Well, I'll start off with one of the Wayland Spirit Walkers is actually one of my favorite models in all of the line. The one with his head back, arms spread, holding the knives, howling at the moon, is actually one of my favorite models in the game from a pure looks standpoint. So they're pretty awesome looking. So we'll start with that.
Okay. Yeah, that was one of those older models that they transitioned into this newer unit with 2nd edition, and it is definitely a neat model, fun to paint, a lot of potential with the spirit blades and doing, object source lighting. I mentioned reading through the stats. One of the things I really like about this, now you can only take 3, which is probably plenty. You think about they're on a medium base, but just the fact that they have metal is great. They're not going to go away super quick, and then having moving target. As long as you get your move off early, that'll help them survive a little bit.
Hey, Tom, what is that noise?
What is the what?
We can hear you clicking and clacking.
No, nothing. I'm messing around with, my daughter was playing around with a Wii gun that I have, and I was playing around with it. Thought I was on mute.
This is like Eric's talking all years.
See, luckily I always separate the sound files, so I see all that stuff. I just delete it right out.
Sorry about that.
I was like, what is that?
I'll send you a picture of it. It's actually kind of awesome.
All right, Brian, what do you think of Wayland Spirit Walkers?
Well, I think they're iconic to the whole theme of Warrior Nation, imbued with, and into spirit animals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the more iconic options in the Warrior Nation thing, but they're super deadly. Even though their mind is 5, that rounds up to 6. So Pierce 3 attuned blades are still really, really good. You're throwing 2 dice every time. Crits on fatal, which ignores metal. The fact that they have metal as a support is really good. They're going to be more survivable than a lot of your other support options.
Yeah.
They're picking up the ability to basically have to survive yeller checks, but I still think for their cost, they're still going to be really good. Obviously, they're getting a little speed boost from Bull Rush.
Yeah.
Get into that hand-to-hand combat a little faster. So, with quick as 7 plus 2 from the Bull Rush.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good distance to get in there.
Yeah, and keep in mind with that medium base too, and can go over uneven ground. There's not much that's going to slow them down.
Right. And they pick up moving target as well after a move.
Yeah.
Just always run them 7 inches, and you're picking up that boon. I just think they're really good. And, having the old, boss models on the table in multiple
force.
Like Tom said, it's one of the better sculpts from the first edition.
Yeah.
And the fact that reused both the first and second version of Sitting Bull.
Yeah, that's right.
As a support unit, you can buy them in boxes of 2, and you get one of each, and you just load up, man, because you can bring them their support, so you can fill in so many different slots in most of the posses in the Warrior Nation. So that's why I fought to make sure they got in the top 3, just because they're crazy good, but they also should be seen, you know.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Shall we move on in our top 3 here and go to number 2, Brian, which is going to be You're Up.
Here's number 2.
All right. So number 2, another iconic support option, is the Great Spirit Shamans. So now they're iconic for a completely different reason than the Wayland Spirit Walkers. They are iconic because they're a traditional looking Indian shaman with the headdress and the, you know, all the little details of their outfits, you know, just kind of make you think of various ceremonial armor and all the different pageantry of you know, the great shamans. One of the coolest things I like about them is, one, their support, but they have no fortune, but can have fortune. So we'll get into that when we get their special rule.
Yeah.
They're 60 per model. You can bring them in groups of 3 to 6. And with a quick of 5, mind of 4, aim of 4, grit of 4, fight of 5, limit 2, you know, really kind of middle ground. But remember, the mind of 5 becomes a 6 when you go into attuned.
Mm-hmm.
So to their weapons, they have Spiritual Inferno, and this is a distant weapon. It has attuned, so you're going to be able to increase their pierce to pierce 3. It's a blast. It has the special rule, so you're only using it once per turn, but has engulf. Okay, so blast and engulf, it changes some of the cover rules when the blast goes off. They can launch this blast up to 8 inches away. The ROA is 1, so it's kind of a really neat, especially if you have like a unit of 6 of these,
mm-hmm.
and you're carpet bombing you're carpet bombing a unit, right? You up 6 pierce 3. I don't know, that's pretty deadly.
Yeah.
So then their other weapon is a Spirit Blade, and it's a melee weapon. It's also attuned, and it crits on fatal. So this is basically a ceremonial weapon. Mm-hmm. So the 3 different poses that you can get for their Spirit Shamans, if you're lucky. War Cradle haven't redesigned these or put them in a new,
like a box,
cast, right?
Yeah.
So you'll have to search out the classics to pick them up, and they each have a different weapon, you know. But the Spirit Blade is basically any of the weapons that they're using that are, you know, considered hand-to-hand weapons. They have a range of 1 inch, pierce of 0, ROA of 1. With attuned, it goes to pierce 3, so not bad. So they don't have any common rules. So we're going to jump right into their special rules. They get something called Weirding. At the start of this activation, each model in the unit gains +1 fortune, even if they do not have a fortune value, which they don't. Told you how we were going to talk about it. So no model in the unit may ever have more than 1 fortune chip. The unit may spend fortune as normal. Okay, so right off the bat, this unit, depending on how big it is going to have anywhere from 3 to 6 fortune. And they don't have largesse, so they have to use it themselves.
Yeah.
And they only have a limit of 2. So it's really easy for them to trigger attuned, and they still should have plenty of extra, you know, fortune. You got to use it, because otherwise you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
Save it for defensive moves, you know, after the thing. So they're just having that amount of fortune for a unit for itself is huge and very effective in keeping them on the table or adding a little boost to when they're attacking. So, you know, some people probably didn't realize that that's per model, not unit. So definitely take note, because that makes this really good power. Okay, so the second power is also one of those force multiplier kind of powers. It's totemic. you may deploy up to 2 spirit totem models or 1 greater spirit totem model per unit with totemic special rule. These totems are placed using the initial deployment special rule. So because these totems can be used as portals, having another unit on the board, such as the shamans, gives you access to more portals on the table. And these portals are there at the beginning of the game, so you don't have to worry about having someone run around opening the portals because they're just already there.
Yeah.
So a support unit, which you can bring multiple times in most lists, allows you to beef up your portals on the board. So that's tactically, that's a very good thing to be able to bring. So I think between all that extra fortune and then the other totems make these a really kind of for 60 points a model.
Yeah.
It's a really great option, especially if your boss and some of the faces you have also have totemic, because then boom, now you can really jack up your portal versus portal stat, which is one of the things is enemy can't jump through your portals as easy if you outnumber their portals. Right. So, that subtracts from their mind check. So it's always better to have more portals than your enemy because it makes them harder to jump through your portals and it makes it easier for you to jump to theirs. So another thing to remember about that. Savant, once per turn when activated, this unit may spend 1 action point for its owning player to select and examine up to 2 random cards in their opponent's hand of adventure cards. One of the chosen cards is discarded. The remaining is returned to the opponent's hand. So, and both me and Eric agree, any card play is a good thing to jump into your posses and to actually have that in support.
This is the dirty side of it.
This one cracks me up because basically you see someone going for, some victory points and you're like, oh no, you're going to throw that away. You don't get those. You don't get to play that victory point card, or just being able to do things like that. I think is just so dirty.
You can see your opponent. They're just waiting to slap down that sucker, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm going to pull that one."
You reach over and you take 2, and you see their face go. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so the last special rule is Child of the Great Spirit. I heard about this before. Basically ignore penalty uneven ground, may reroll yellow checks if they're subject to them, and as a support unit they're not. This may not be included in posses with tainted or automaton units. So if you think they have 3 really powerful special rules for 60 points.
For 60 points. And I've taken these guys before in a force just to get those totems, that to spam that many more things to jump, either 1, to jump around more with, to make them more mobile, or 2, just a lot of times, whether I'm playing against Warrior Nation or I'm playing them, it's just having more totems out there can be a distraction to your opponent. Yeah. That they're going to go after them because they fear right away that you're going to jump right out on them. So that's I like having that option. Or the great spirit totem is nice to get, a fortune sitting on there every turn, that if you have a unit close to it and they just need that one more fortune chip, that they can pull it off of there.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I fought for them to be in the top 3 is because as a support unit, man, they're really powerful.
Yeah. I'm not sure there was a fight. I think this was one of the ones that we all kind of agreed on. I mean, the total package between the carpet bomb, the 3 really powerful special rules, and they're pretty cheap.
Yeah, they're really cheap. 60 points a model.
Yeah,
this really is a great package.
I have 3 of them because it was back when I literally bought one of everything, and it's like, dude, this is what the 1.09 model or card came out. It's like, I need more.
Yeah. I like using these and just parking them somewhere on an objective. Just, it's one of those units that their stuff will still kind of help. And then if anybody gets close to them, then they can bring down the heavens on them.
Yeah. You really are just sitting there daring someone to come at you.
Just put them on the lookout. It's like, come on. Or they have all that extra fortune. All they have to do is veteran instincts. It's cheap for them.
Yeah.
Most models have it on their own, so they have to rely on the boss. But these guys, they're going to, depending on how big you make the unit, they're going to have 3 to 6 fortune of their own.
Yeah.
So they're going to have the ability just to veteran instincts whenever, because they have all that extra fortune just sitting around.
Yeah.
So
I love the way you talk about it like it's their riches. They just have it sitting around. They'll use it. It's a money to burn.
Think about it. Most units don't have more than 2 fortune. There's only 2 other. There's only two units in the game that have more than them, and they're bosses.
Yeah.
And custom. So if you bring a full 6 model unit, there's only 2 other units in the whole game that has as much fortune as you.
Right.
So it's huge. Now it's scary to know what number 1 is, right?
Yeah.
Those guys are number 2.
All right, we ready for number 1?
Yep, let's go to number 1.
And the best of them all, number 1.
So number 1, we've got the Great Thunderbird. Support, Warrior Nation, Beast, Spirit Animal, and Flight. This bad boy will come in at 135 per model, which is not too shabby. Quickness 4, Mind 4, Aim 6, Grit 6, Fight 7, Limit 2. For its weapons, it's got Razor Claws, which are a melee weapon. They have lethal on crit, range 1 inch, pierce -2 with a rate of attack of 3. And then it's got Lightning Bolts, which is a ranged attack. It's got Hazardous, Stun, Brutal Special, and Fatal on a crit. It's got a range of 10 inches with a pierce of 2 and a rate of attack of 4.
Youch.
Yikes, that's pretty good. It's on an extra large base, so this is a biggin. Unit consists of 1 model, and it has the following common rules. It has Metal, Agile, and Shrouded.
Okay.
And we go into its special rules here. Stormbringer. Once per activation, this unit may spend an action point and immediately place a hazard and disorder condition on a unit within 8 inches. What? Think about that. You usually have to hit something to start putting conditions on it.
Yeah, roll dice.
You have to roll dice. This is just like, you got it. You got this condition, and now that you have that condition, now I'm going to shoot you again so I can kill you. That's really nasty.
Hint, do Stormbringer at the beginning of your activation.
Really?
Yeah. So your 10-inch range lightning bolts will be in range.
Yes. Which is just pretty awesome. Next, we've got Elusive. So backstab reactions against this unit suffer a -4 penalty. Not much to say there. They get to run away from you. Pretty nice. Galvanic. The stun and disorder qualities do not cause attribute penalties to be suffered by this unit, though they still count as having the condition.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a nice thing to have. While they do still have the condition for as far as taking shots and being knocked off the board, it doesn't actually mess with them at all.
Yeah, which is nice.
What was that?
So when you get stunned, you lose -1 to all your stats, but your limit. So it's nice not to have a -1 to your grit.
Mm-hmm.
Carrying the condition. So it's a nice boon.
Absolutely. It's got Hardy. So the unit may re-roll failed grit checks. And then it's got fight, flight, or fight. It's a reaction. When this unit is nominated as the target of a charge action, this unit may spend a point of fortune to immediately be placed D5 inches from its current position. This placement must be to a point directly away from the charging unit. This placement cannot be into impassable terrain or cause the unit to be engaged. This is one of those fun ones. It's nice to be able to just sort of
fly away,
back out when something's charging, and then all of a sudden they end up, an inch out of their ability to actually hit you. This is one of those things that just helps with the Thunder Chicken's survival.
Yeah, it just flies away, little bird, and then comes back and lays down some thunder and lightning on your ass.
Yup. You called down the thunder, well, now you've got it.
Oh, yeah. The T-Bird is pretty scary. I mean, extra large base, you're not going to hide them, but, man, is this thing aggressive.
It's, it suffers from the same issue that I think all of the really large supports suffer from, and that's that you can't hide them.
Yeah.
They're going to take shots, and, you bring enough way to fire against it, sooner or later it rolls a 1 and it's off the board. So come out swinging and use them, hard and fast until he gets knocked off the board, because there's no point in holding him in reserve, because they're going to get knocked out.
No. Yeah.
So get in there and do as much damage as you can before that happens.
I mean, this is the kind of model that I hate to use the term, but if you want to go boss hunting, this is who you'd use. You could boss or face hunt with this thing to get somebody off the board fairly easy.
Yep. I mean, think about that Stormbringer. Like, you can't quicken the dead it. You just have the condition.
Yeah, you just get it. There's no, there's no check against that. That's just something the bird wants you to have. You get it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think most of if I remember right, most of the Warrior Nation list when you're building your posses, being it is a support. So usually the supports are only a couple of the chambers in that you can have access to this thing. So it's not too bad of an option. Sometimes in a lot of the posses, they have you go through all the cylinders before you can get to your big heavies and stuff. But this guy being a support, just pay attention to those keywords, because you may be able to get him in that list a lot sooner than you think.
Yep, absolutely. And let's face it, 135 a model for what this guy does. Look for those, bring a face or bring a storm. Bring a hands unit and a support.
Yeah.
Look for those ands and try to just keep shoving them in there, because you can bring, at this price point, you can bring a few of them. You don't need to just say I've got one.
Yeah.
You could have a few of these on the board, and you're talking about guided missiles for the most part.
I mean, if you combine this with the Fire Eagle in your list, and you put them both on the corners, and you can just, whoosh, totally.
I disagree.
No?
If you have,
you think take 2 of these guys?
I would totally.
Yeah.
Because the Fire Eagle is okay, but their breath weapon doesn't have a rate of attack of 4. They don't have Stormbringer.
True. That's true.
So they're not going to already topple your defenses before they then throw 4 dice on top of you with brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's potential for, a 5 hit on a boss that you've already disordered.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah. To me, you bring the Thunderbird in as
you put hazard on him, so the attack that 4, maybe 5 hits are going to be lethal. Lethal, because he's already going to have hazard too. So now that hazardous lightning bolt that's going to stun you again So you're going to pick up stun if you succeed in any of the dice rolls, which I mean, it's going to be really difficult. You're already disordered, so you can only you gotta save every one.
Yeah.
And just the Fire Eagle doesn't have that. There's no force multiplier, or I guess not force multiplier. There's no lethality multiplier for the Fire Eagle.
Okay.
Stormbringer is the game changer. So yeah, if you have two birdie models, dude, bring them both as the Great Thunderbird, because they're worth it.
So my question for you is this: the thing that gives me a little bit of a pause. You've only got a limit of 2, so you use Stormbringer, right?
Stormbringer's not an action.
What was that?
Stormbringer is an ability. It doesn't count against your limit.
Oh, you know what?
Right.
I saw that once per activation, you spend an action point. And I'm thinking it's using up your limit.
Nope.
Oh, never mind then, because I'm like, what if they quicken the dead your attack then? Okay, so you could always follow it up as long as you have the action points with a second attack.
Yeah. Yeah, you get that condition on them. They can't use Quicken the Dead, so they're kind of, they're
a mess now.
Yeah, they're kind of stuck. So you can cut their defensive, down right away for no limit, no, it just, okay, I got an action point, I'll just do this.
So, yeah, these are kind of gross, as Brian would say.
and I think that's why all three of us at the same time, when we talk about the big birds, we're like, oh yeah, Thunderbird. Thunderbird's going to be number 1 support.
Right. Well, okay, so the conversation when Tom was like, oh, well, the top 2 are Thunderbird and the Fire Eagle. And I was like, no, the Thunderbird could be number 1, but Fire Eagle maybe 4.
Well, no, and then when we talked him through, we were kind of like, you know what, we got to drop the big animals out for the most part, because of like we talked about, it's easy to get them off the board.
Yeah,
relatively. But the Great Thunderbird, it's like, yeah, go ahead and take him off the board. I already killed your boss.
He did what he was meant to do.
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, they are just nasty little big beasties.
Yeah, Thunder Chicken is worth it.
All right, well, that kind of sums up the Saloon's top 3 for Warrior Nation support. We didn't really have any bridesmaids in this, but we kind of wanted to go over some of the support models because a lot of these units are really good for Warrior Nation for one reason or another, so we just wanted to go over them real quick.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, the Warrior Nation doesn't have any bad support units.
No.
Usually in most of the factions, you'd be like, yeah, this thing is just not worth it. I don't think the Warrior Nation has anything where you just say, no, this is never worth it.
Yeah.
So that's what made picking a top 3 a little more difficult, is you can make an argument for just about any of them.
Yeah. Yeah, you could. It came down to like, okay, when you're building your posses, what do you want to do with it type thing. I mean, support as a name is a perfect example for these guys. How are they going to support you? It just depends what you want to do. So let's see. Let's go over them real quick. Sky Stallions. Why would somebody want to pick these guys?
Because they're cool looking.
I was just going to say the same thing. You're like, oh, but Tom always says that everything just looks nice.
I got 3 of these.
Me too.
I mean, they're a good option. They're mobile. The quick 8 is really nice.
Yeah.
They're skirmishers, so they can be spread out a little more than most units. They're pretty good. I mean, I think they have a really major flaw because in 1.09 they put special on their bow.
Yeah.
I'll probably fight in 1.1 to get that removed because it does undermine the reason to bring. It's like the limit of 2 and they only get 1 shot. So now they're move and shoot.
Yeah, this is a similar problem that the brutes have in Enlightened. They limit it to those guys are slow, but yeah, they have to move, shoot type thing.
The problem with the Warrior Nation does not have the ability to reactivate a unit that's already gone. But with the brutes and most of your creations in the Enlightened, they have Dark Council throughout their bosses and some of their faces. So they have the ability, for you to re-energize those weapons that those undead have. It's like, because they're all tainted, so they all can get targeted by their bosses to compel them to shoot again, right?
Yeah.
And special doesn't count for that. Well, Warrior Nation doesn't have that, so it's just one shot around the top.
So if you want a mobile unit that can get around the board and claim objectives and just be a general nuisance, Sky Stallions would be good.
And they just look cool doing it.
Yeah. All right, and then we got Spirit Apparitions, some ghost. You want to be spooky out there on the board.
And they're just gross.
Now, these guys are only 45 points a model, so they're a cheap, a nice cheap unit to put out there.
A unit.
Yeah.
Spirit Claws are great. They're tuned. Pierce 3, rate of attack 3. Throwing 3 Pierce 3s is really gross. And then they have a breath weapon, which is stun, torrent, and gulp. Pierce 3, rate of attack 1 with a little crit displacement. So it's pretty good. I like them. They're good. I'm gonna need to buy a bunch because I just bought the Soul Hunters and they can work out. So
they're good, but they're also, just be aware, they're very slow, and they've got a range of base to base.
Yeah.
So other than that, obviously you have that torrent, but even to use that torrent, you gotta get base to base. So no,
you don't have base to base. It just doesn't have a range because it uses the torrent template.
Oh,
and any template hit. So you basically have to be, 9-ish inches because the template's 9 inches long. So
yeah.
Anything between you and the end of the template all gets that rate of attack of 1 off.
that stun and that. Again, it's Pierce 3, but it's rate attack 1. But those Spirit Claws are the really nasty part.
Yeah.
To me. So, which is why they weren't in the top 3.
Frenzy. So each critical success gives another free strike. So, roll them crits right here.
Yeah. That's what we say all the time. End of every show. All right. What we got? We got some Kanga Brothers. If you guys need some shooty shoot.
Right. So if you like GATs, this is how you can bring some in your Warrior Nation. You can upgrade their armory. They can bring some different weapons. They start with the crossbow at 40 points, but the crossbow is really good. It's lethal and carries special because it's pretty deadly. 15-inch range, Pierce 3 with lethal, and on a crit becomes fatal.
So I think I would just upgrade them with the armory right away. And like you said, put GATs on them. I like that these guys are skirmishers too, so you can, have up to 6, just spread them out so you can cover a lot.
The downside is then you don't get your war paint, and the war paint's pretty nice for Warrior Nation. Mm-hmm. It gives a +1 grit when base to base with other friendly models with the rule. So you're probably going to base to base the Kaga Brothers.
Yeah.
Because it's with model. So I think you're going to keep these guys base to base with each other just so that you can pick up that. Makes it useful. It would be nice for Kaga War Paint to show up some other locations.
Yeah. Kind of like this, the next one, Kanga Firebringer.
Yep.
Well, they got war paint there. Okay.
They do. They picked it up.
But it's got those linked Gatling guns, which is
for 90 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these guys, like when you start the game, so they have dispersed deployment. So you can kind of plop these guys 12 inches away from the enemies. They're going to be tearing some stuff up fairly quick.
Yep. You have to start 12 inches away, and you have a 15-inch range. So Yeah, you just go say, well, these guys are going to go first. It really, really nasty. As we've said before, Gatling guns are one of the best things in this game. There's almost no reason to ever use the upgrades into the other weapons.
Yeah.
So yeah, that basically would be the main purpose with these guys, to just so you can pin some people down. Let's see, who else didn't we cover? The Great Elk. Tommy, you were fighting for the Great Elk.
Oh, I just love the moose.
Bullwinkle?
Yeah, until they add a sidekick Bullwinkle.
Yep, well, that's the squirrel. If they come up with a squirrel, I'm totally playing moose and squirrel every time.
See, now, I
squirrel.
I like the moose, and I've used him a lot. Just, he's expensive, and 140 sometimes, like I mentioned, going through fairly, deep into your posse list. Granted, he does have support, so you just have to watch for that. He has tough and unstoppable, and I've had him blown off the board fairly quick.
And that's ultimately why he got dropped out when we were discussing this, is that unlike the Thunder Chicken, who can, blast across the board, take out whoever it is you want dead. Yeah, it might die right back in return, but you can pretty much say, I'm taking something off the board. A lot of times the Great Elk is just dead before it gets to do anything.
Yeah.
And that was, similar costs and everything, but it just doesn't have that that mutually assured destruction piece that the Thunderbird has.
Well, right.
Which
so the main reason...
he's a melee monster, basically.
He's a melee monster with a ROA of 1.
Yeah.
So that's his biggest limitation is he's supposed to be a melee threat, and he's just not, right? So he's not going to take out any bosses with the weapon he's got. He's not going to be able to wipe out a bunch of hands because he's only going to be able to take out 1, maybe 2 models.
Yeah.
His breath weapon ends up being his most effective option.
Yeah, with
then at least stun. He can take out a unit of hands.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I'm like, hey, it's great as an intimidation factor, but then actually doing stuff.
And I think that's usually what's happened to me.
He can't do anything because he doesn't have any rate of attack. His rate of attack is 1.
Yeah, he's
limit of 2.
Yeah,
Death Dealer is an amazing ability. It's just Death Dealer doesn't really come into play because he's only got a RA of 1.
Yeah, so he's hard to hide, but if you can get him into that melee, then he's gonna wreck somebody's day, a face,
Right. So he can his melee attack can come up to a 3 hit.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, just not enough, I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, it comes down to, I think, what we've talked about before. Probably the best stat in this game is rate of attack. And if your rate of attack is 1, then you're not that good.
Right.
All right, and then we got one last option for the support for the Warrior Nations, and this is the Fire Chicken, which we briefly talked about when we were talking about the Thunderbird.
Yep, he's good. He's got some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
His Razor Claws is his best option. His Fire Torrent, it's okay. It's just it just doesn't have the same impact as the lightning bolts.
I mean, he's got some neat little abilities like Death from Above. You can end one of his flights actually engaged with somebody, and you can get a immediate fight action for 1 action point.
Basically a flight charge.
Yeah. And then he's similar to the Thunderbird with elusive and hardy, and he's got the flight or fight.
He does pick up Forceful Strike, which does make his Razor Claws a little bit better because they'll jump from Pierce 2 to 4, so that's pretty nice.
Yeah. And once again, beautiful model.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's our look at top 3 support units for the Warrior Nation. If you guys want to comment on any of this, go ahead and send us an email, and we'd love to further discuss. very good options there for Warrior Nation.
So is the Fire Eagle now going to be known as barbecue chicken?
I've so got to leave that in. All right, let's get out of this top 3. Well, guys, we're wrapping it up here. We're getting close to the end, and this is the part where we like to go on our news and new releases and stuff. But amid our times, we still have some weird things going on, and we really don't have a lot of new news other than just today, at time of recording, they officially canceled Gen Con. So that's going to be some big crying eyes for a lot of people. That's weird, that this year's turning into the no con year. Hopefully, we still have the chance of PAX though, right, Tom?
It's late enough in the year that it hasn't been canceled yet.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I forget offhand whether it's the weekend before or after Thanksgiving, but it's one of those weekends. So very late in the year, there's a chance maybe it'll still happen. Is it after?
I think so.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get something in.
Yeah. And then for new releases, they had for Mythos, Path of Chronozone. And there is a new pre-order up for Mythos with the Wildborn. But since that was really the only news there was that we can really kind of go into, we thought we'd do something a little bit different. And being that we're theming the show for Warrior Nation, we're going to jump right into some terrain talk. Give some people some ideas about building out a Warrior Nation board.
Yeah. So we'll talk about, native themed terrain.
Yeah. Something more than just like desert and your town atmosphere, but we're gonna
right. So a lot of Warrior Nation boards end up just being the
trees.
Mesa rock.
Yeah, rocks, trees.
Right.
Brush. Maybe a little creek.
One of the things I find amazing about that is we all always think mesas, deserts, whatever, and it's like these people were in the woods and in the fields and the plains and the you had the Inuits up up north in the Arctic, and the actual environment that you can put these guys in. So forget about the terrain for a second, the specific terrain, but you can have a wooded board. You could have rolling plains. You could have all sorts of other types of things, yet somehow they always just end up on these desert boards.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that in the theme of Westerns, a lot of Western movies and even this game ends up being New Mexico, Arizona locale.
Yeah. We don't.
So deserty, brush-esque is kind of the go-to, because that's what we see in the movies, because a lot of the movies are filmed over there, right? Yep. Not realizing that most Texas, has every environment from desert to hills to mountains to deep forests to grasslands. You know what I mean? So if you think of your idea of where you're going to be playing your games, your board literally could be any environment.
Yeah.
Oklahoma is lots of,
Kansas.
Kansas is the same. Colorado, you've got desert. You've got grasslands, you've got hills, you've got mountains, you've got snow, you've got,
I think something that we don't usually see on boards is rivers and stuff too.
Yep.
You go further north and then you're in the deep, like Deadwood. If you wanted to do a Deadwood board, now you're talking about dark trees, large trees, rock out.
Canyons and stuff.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of canyons.
Warrior Nation, obviously, there's been a merger of all the tribes, and so you have this combination of the tools and the basically their technology, they group together. So you have like the New England, tribes now have come down, right? Because obviously the big push of civilization pushed them into the West. So the actual structures they would build would be perfectly fine in a board in the West now, right? Even though most of the tribes in the West became nomadic, right? So everything was easily taken down, stored on horses, dragged, and then rebuilt. So that's when, the traditional teepee was not a widespread way of housing a little Indian village.
Yeah.
They're much more dug-in homes. There were much more, what did you call them? Tom, you were talking about the
longhouses.
The longhouses. What is it, like the dome?
Oh, like a yurt?
It's not a yurt. They called it something else. I just can't remember the name for it. But it was basically you took the sapling trees and you would bend them around down into a dome. And then you would weave, sapling trees because they're more pliable, and you would just weave around and make it. It would be a round dome, but it would be semi-permanent. Versus like the teepee was basically hide stretched over poles, and then it was designed to come down quickly. So if they decided they needed to follow the herd, they would just take it all down and move.
Yeah.
So the terrain piece, which I'm going to pitch is teepees, right?
Yeah.
So they're fairly easy. The hardest part is making sure you have a pattern for what you use to design the actual stretch skin of what your outside of your teepee is. What I've used is the paper towel, or if you want something a little sturdier, get baby wipes, which squeeze out all the whatever liquid and lotion they put in them, for the baby rear. Squeeze all that out, and then make a PVA glue and water mixture and soak it in that. Then build your pole structure, and you can use dowels. You can use any other material that you have. You can actually go out in the back and grab some
skewers,
some switches, that you may have used already for the kids, or
oh man,
little twigs, and design your, basically your cone. So make a cone-like shape on the whatever base you're going to use. You can actually use the war cradle, like extra large base, or the extra large base, whatever, or just a piece of cardboard. You can use some. I think someone used. You can use you got any old extra compact discs, or paint those, put the gravel on it, and then glue your sticks or your rods. Then you take your template, which is that you can get them online. You can find a little TP template and cut the shape out of your wet wipe, and then just stretch it over the thing. Well, the PVA and water mixture will harden as it dries. So once you stretch it over, just hold it while it starts to dry. It should stick a little because of the PVA glue. If it's not, because it's too wet, just add more PVA glue on where you've overlapped the edges of the white, and then as it hardens, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Then you can cut the hole where the Indians come in and out, or you can just leave it solid and then paint the exterior, like leather, like fabric, linen, whatever, and then you can do whatever treatment of decorations around the outside, and there you got it.
Hey, make a little temporary village, basically.
Right.
I think you're dating us, Brian. Though you're talking about CDs, I bet you there's a lot of people out there listening that don't know what a CD is.
It's kind of like a Blu-ray, but cheesier.
Cheaper.
All right, Tommy, what were you thinking that you can slap down on a board?
Somewhere along the same lines as what Brian did in a livable structure. The reason he brought that up is we talked about, I'm from the Northeast. What we had around here were the Lenape Indians, and they were known for building longhouses. They could be 18, 20, 30, 40 feet long. They would house, multiple families inside these things. They were very dark inside. There was not a lot of access to them. There would usually be a door on one end, on either end, and then on the really, really long ones, they might have a side door in them. Basically, what they looked like were square-sided. It was big rectangles with a rounded roof. And how they were built was they put poles in the ground. They actually put posts in the ground, and they wove long strips of bark in between them. And it basically formed something that was very similar to like cedar plank siding type of a look. You get that sort of kind of an effect, except it's actually woven in between all these poles. So you could do the same thing if you wanted to build one of these. Like Brian had said, go out in your yard, start, getting some twigs together, start setting them up. I would think the easiest way to do it is you poke them into a little piece of foam, keeps them upright. Then you can just start weaving, get some like card, cut that into strips. That simulates your bark, and you start weaving it in between, and you build up the walls just weaving this bark in between. Obviously, you alternate, the over-under on each one. It's, like weaving a basket.
Yeah.
And you do that all the way through. You get some little more springy twigs to bend over the top of the roof, but it's still built the same way. You just keep weaving everything in between. You leave a little hole, depending on the length of it, possibly more than one at the top, because they would have fires, smoke holes in the top that they would come up. And you don't need a lot of access to it, because that was, the missionaries used to report on these and say you'd go in there and there'd be these big, long, dark houses, because they didn't have, lamps back then. You'd have a fire pit, and that's it. That was your source of light in there. And now you have a more permanent structure that they actually made villages out of these things. And they erected barricade walls around them, like you would think, colonial settlers would use. Well, the natives used those too, because you'd have these nice palisade walls around their little longhouse villages. So you could put together something there. It's a little more involved than putting a teepee together, but you have a very nice permanent structure now that you could use, and it would be very appropriate for more of a northeast, coming down through maybe the Ohio river valleys and stuff, and through Pennsylvania, New Jersey. That's the kind of structures that they use there. So,
but because they were forced to migrate west, it would not be wrong to use those structures literally anywhere in Wild West Texas, because the Indians all had to move, and since they all came together, if they're going to have a permanent village, they wouldn't use just teepees. They would
something to house large numbers.
So this is something that totally would be anywhere in Warrior Nation lands, because those Indians over there, they've moved. They've since joined the big, Great Spirit Army.
Yeah.
And will have been relocated to where the rest of the Warrior Nation are.
And the materials would be common pretty much anywhere. Right. Maybe not in the desert, but pretty much anywhere that's not desert, you'd have access to those materials.
Yep. All right. My idea I had wasn't so much about like the actual structures and stuff, but a little more similar to something that you would maybe call scatter terrain that could be around these, the teepees or, these big buildings. And that was just a common canoe. If you're going to do something that's close to the rivers and stuff, and actually it doesn't even have to have a river on the board itself, but just give that hint of maybe there's one nearby or a lake nearby. And a canoe, you could build that pretty simple with with the popsicle sticks or, the dowel rods, and you just, you form the shape of the canoes to that, and then just skin it with chipboard, or actually I like the paper towel method, or even the cheesecloth method, because then it'll give that simulation of like a skinned, the skinned wood frame with like, it could be animal hide, or it could be, the skins of bark. And a lot of it to kind of show that material off, it would be in the painting. use a lot of like washes and stuff like that. And I mean, you can design a simple rack with the same kind of dowel rods that the canoes could either be resting up on, or if you did actually do something that had a river or a lake, you know, you can put them by the shoreline. It's just something to give that personality, you know, that hint of life for the board, for the Warrior Nation, that, you know, this is a community that's going to go out in these and fish and hunt and not just your straight up trees and bushes and, you know, rocks that you would normally see, but it just adds a little bit more of a personality to the scene. So, but yeah, that was my idea, and I mean, you can have as many as you want. All these ideas, I think, would be quick, easy type projects for a board, and you can have fun with it. You know, you can do not just paint them brown and tans and stuff like that, but you could get a little more decorative. You can, you know, add some striping on them, blue striping, or, you know, try to show a hint of tribal colors and whatnot on it. So I think you'd have a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, I think that definitely. Scatter Terrain really makes a lot of these boards. So I think that putting together any type of board, regardless of whether it's Warrior Nation or something else, putting that scatter in kind of gives the board life.
Yeah,
you know, you have some buildings there, and it you know, it looks like abandoned buildings. You start putting in the scatter and stuff. It really makes the boards interesting, and in addition to obviously giving you cover and the game benefits, just when you look at something, the scatter is what makes something look lived in and worked in, and really gives, like I said, a lot of life to a board.
Yeah. Like with your guys' examples, you could put these by the huts and teepees and stuff like that, and it's like that's their park and their canoe, you know, on the side of the house.
Another neat, quick scatter terrain would be, you know, a leatherworking drying rack, you know, where all you have to do is use the same material you built your teepee from, cut out a little animal-shaped skin out of the wet wipe and attach it to just a little square.
Yeah, some kind of frame
that's propped up, and there you go. You've got a stretched skin, and it block line of sight.
Yeah, that definitely would block line of sight. But like Tom said, it adds to that, you know, that story of there's people living here and working here, and it's not just buildings.
Right. If you got some fish, hang some fish off of a smoke rack, you know.
So like the variety pack of Swedish fish, put a string through them.
I would recommend actual candy, because
so after the battle you could eat it.
Although I guess if you attract ants to your board, I mean, you can use that as more scatter terrain.
Then it turns into a 1950s sci-fi movie. Oh, man. Well, I think we can go ahead and wrap up this episode for everybody. A little bit of a terrain talk instead of some news and going over different cons and stuff like that for you guys, since we kind of wanted to make the whole show very Warrior Nation themed. And let us know what you guys think about doing this approach with the show. It was something different, but we figured it'd be fun for us to do and for you guys to listen to, especially if you're in the Warrior Nation. Us talking about Warrior Nation for the whole show. Wow.
Well, you know, I've seen things over the past year and a half where people are asking about specific factions and what to do with them, and we kind of talked about it early on and said, you know, we didn't want to do just a this is the faction and these are the guys and let's blah 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 blah. I think doing it this way, we do give we can highlight certain factions and certain parts of them that we find interesting without actually full-blown breaking down a particular faction, which can get kind of old.
Yeah, it gets dry after a while, us talking about stats and strategy. I mean, we give you a little bit of that, but kind of with our twist and take on it.
Exactly. But if you have a faction you want us to do something similar with, than we did with this episode, go ahead and pitch it to us.
Yeah.
You may swing.
We'll go ahead
and baseball.
Since there's no baseball. Yeah, if you guys have any questions or suggestions for us, as always, go ahead and email us at blackhoofsaloon@gmail.com, or you can find us on the Dark Council or our Facebook page. Send us a message there. We're always lurking on those Facebook places and trying to participate in the conversations. Other places you guys can find us at is on Twitter and Instagram. We do have a YouTube channel. You can check out some of the unboxing videos I put up there. We have Brian and Tom did a rather cool painting tutorial that they're planning to do another one. We're doing some planning, trying to decide what to paint and whatnot. Other than that, I think that's about it. You guys got anything else you want to add for the end of the show?
I got nothing. Roll crits and stuff.
I was waiting for Tom to just say no.
I guess it's not a wrap until I yeehaw. So yeehaw, Kimo-san.
All right, guys. Remember to always ride with the sun at your back and always roll those big crits. This is Eric saying, take it easy. And you got a yeehaw from Brian. Tom, take us out.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Y'all come back now here.
I don't know if that was a very good bye. I didn't get high enough.
Thanks for stopping by the Blackhoof Saloon, y'all. We hope you enjoyed your visit. Feel free to get a hold of us with comments or questions via the interwebs and shoot us a telegraph at blackhoofsaloon@gmail.com. You can also find us on the Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Music for the podcast was provided for use by Ross Bugden and can be found at one of his YouTube channels, Ross Bugden Music or Ross Bugden Composer. Until your next visit, ride with the sun at your back and always roll those big crits.
Like 9, 10 pieces for one dude? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Because one, it made the details even better, the way that they built the models. I mean, I appreciated how they, all the detail of all the little electronics and stuff was why it was all those multi-pieces, but I appreciated it. Hey, these are going to be extremely detailed, and that's why, because they made every angle that had the electronic details was a new part, and you had to insert it into stuff. I thought they were really cool. I enjoyed it.
I appreciate the power and majesty behind a buck and bronco. I don't want to get kicked in the nuts by one.
Well, send them over if you want me to do them for you.
What? Get kicked in the nuts?
No, build your plastic models if they're too hard.
I'm doing it. Brian's gonna end up building everything I own.
I might mail it back.
Everything's too hard.
So, we discussed the narrative and why we mentioned both of the cards, but we separate them by talking about Wiccasansi. So it's kind of like it's not really a three-way showdown, but it does let everyone know. It's like, dude, you have two options.
Yeah,
when
with
playing
walks.
a Warrior Nation walks, you can play her as the boss who has a theme, or you can play her as the face, and then you can underboss or up to a boss if you really want to use her as a boss.
We could make them have a 3-way. That would be interesting.
My gosh.
But what?
I'm not putting that one in the outtake.
We've got bush rangers hunting taint and oh my god! But this is too much. Oh my god!
I suppose during that you're going to be going. Woo!
Hey, they did it in Roger Rabbit. I don't see what's wrong with it now.
Oh, geez.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to hell.
Well, I got to end the segment somehow. Here. All right, let's get out of this top 3. Done.
Done. All right.
I can't drop my mic because we still got to record.
We need like some tap dancing or something. Have Gregory Hines doing the flim flam shim sham or whatever it was from History of the World Part 1.
Yeah.
No.
That movie cracks me up. My favorite scene part of that whole movie is when they're trying to, I don't know what they're trying to sneak around or something. They're in the Senate. He's like, quick, act like a senator. And he's like, bullshit, 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 bullshit.
Oh, you're a professional philosopher.
I love that.